right. We're not recording a normal spot. And if you hear anything weird behind us, it's a fish tank. So enjoy the white noise.
Yeah, if nothing else, yeah.
This podcast, we should really have a third partner with us today. Some of you may know I'm trying to start a second podcast with a friend of mine, and we're dealing with true crime. And hopefully that will get off the ground soon.
Hopefully you'll be able to maintain.
Yeah,
you're through the first season.
We've got plenty of material. It's harder when you don't live together to try to organize getting stuff together.
Right. If you don't share a schedule, and on top of that, there are a lot of other scheduling conflicts. Yeah, it makes it hard to put together.
Yeah, so I guess you could say this might be a preview, but we're going to stick with some of the paranormal in this one, and go into the capital city of New York.
Albany.
So
it's still upstate.
Oh, yeah, still upstate. Welcome to Unearthly Upstate. My name is Mari.
And I am Matthew.
And today we're going to discuss what's called the murder at Cherry Hill. And this is a twofer. You get one tragic event and two haunted locations. I'll tie to it, yes. But before we go into this lovely true crime ghost story, some more housekeeping. Yes, we still have a Patreon. Yes, we still have a Facebook. Yes, we still have all that. We haven't been too active on it lately, because Matt's getting off the haunt.
Yes, that's right. I'm no longer with Damon Akers for this. The season has ended. And
at work, even though it's not the crunch season like it is in the summer for me, we are switching over to a whole new software system. And my mind gets kind of fried working with that. It's fun. I mean, it's going to sound like I'm mask. What do you ever call them? A glutton for punishment. But they gave me the new software system to write up for the interface for the people using the software for it. I'm not a programmer. This is something you can do without being a programmer. If you know how to do a web page, you can do this. Okay. I mean, I don't want to make it sound like I got a programming skills. I don't, but I do know how to. I do a basic HTML, and I do know basic Cascade style sheets. But I'm building it from scratch. It's not like somebody said, "Oh, here's a template, just alter it." No, I'm the one coming up with the template. So, my brain's a little fried when I get home. So things get kind of pushed to the side. So I want to apologize, but we're still busy on those. We just haven't been responding as much as we should. Okay, the house cleaning and apologies out of the.
And again, thanks to all the listeners.
Yes, thank you. Yeah.
Wherever you may be, whenever you may be.
Yeah, putting up with this. So let's get into this juicy story. This really plays out like a Lifetime movie, don't you think?
Yeah, really one of those bad made-for-TV movies.
Yeah.
That ran like an hour and 20 minutes or something like that.
And I am going to warn people, I have very strong opinions about one of the players in this story, one of the characters.
I think it's the kind of story I think that probably belongs in fiction.
It should, yeah. But unfortunately, this happened a few more. This was an unusual situation, unfortunately. And if they ever did like a similar situation happen in modern times, I really hope to goodness that people. Let's put it this way: I'll get to it. I'm not.
You can fume. Once we get to the conclusion.
All right. So I said it was one tragic event. It was a murder at a place called Cherry Hill in Albany, New York. And this murder actually spawned two hauntings. There is the house of Cherry Hill, which is this beautiful hill on top of a beautiful hill on top of a hill. A beautiful house on top of a hill in Albany. One family lived there for till what, 1963?
Let's give them some background about Cherry Hill House.
Yeah.
Who built it? When? There were two principal families there, yes. And
the Van Resslingers, I know that was part of it. Here we go. It was in 1768, a Van Resslinger married Maria Sanders, and they built the home there. They were the family business was pretty good. I mean, these people weren't poor by any standards, you know, they were very well off. That family has ties to the Revolutionary War and everything, but the family lived at this house until 1963, I think I read or saw. That was the last member of the family passed away in 1963. So this home was continuously occupied. Yeah, the son, Solomon Van Reslinger, followed his father into public service. He was in the U.S. House of Representatives. He was Albany's postmaster. Remember, in some of these, we were doing research, and like postmaster must have been a more prestigious title in the 1800s.
It must have been. Carried a lot of clout.
Oh, it carried a lot of clout. Nowadays, I don't think it carries as much. But interesting about Solomon, in 1824, he hosted the Marquis de Lafayette at Cherry Hill. There you go. I mean, this was a mover and shaker family. This is a huge house, and a lot of people lived there. And the time they were getting to for the murder, 1827, there were 17 people living there. People who were in concentrate actually married into the Van Rensselaer family. They weren't blood relations; they were by marriage related to it. One of them was named John Whipple. He was a businessman. Doing okay in business, but he needed a little extra. So he went, and how do you get money in that time period? You either earn it or you marry into it. And he found a perfect bride. He was 23 at the time. She was 14. And she had gotten a large inheritance from her family. They married, and of course, law of the land at that time meant that he got the money. He had control of the money. I could see, looking at it through modern lens, what was that? But that was the time period. And I think some people have looked upon that law, and like he got control of the money, as a way that he was controlling this young woman named Elsie. I forgot to mention her name. I'm sorry.
Well, no. Whose family had the money to begin with?
Well, he had some money. He was a businessman. He was married into the Van Rensselaer family. She had a very large inheritance, and her name was Elsie Whipple. Oh, wait, well, that was her married name.
Oh, and so thinking that if she murdered her husband...
Oh, we haven't got that far yet. But yeah.
She could acquire this wealth somehow.
She could get her wealth back. That is going to be one of the motives we're going to talk about
a
little bit.
But in fact, has anybody looked at that? And looked at the facts of how, if her husband died, would that automatically default to her? Or would it go into...
It was a very old-fashioned thing that the man of the house controlled the money. It didn't matter where the money came from.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, a fictitious example is I'm mentioning Discworld again. When Sam Vimes marries Sybil, she's got all the money. He was born with barely a pot to pee in, And before the marriage, she signed everything over to him. Everything. The manor houses, everything. Right. So he went from a guy who was used to living on like a few dollars a month to having estates. And even though he tried to fight it, but she was old-fashioned and she wanted him to have control of it. So she literally signed everything over to him. If you know the stories, you probably know that she knew that Sam would be very sensible about it and really not care. He had all that stuff. But let's digress. But that was one thing that the marriage happened between John and Elsie.
Of course, we're not taking any of this out of context at the time, which was the 1820s, folks. Right. So,
so Elsie...
Anyway.
And she was also... I've heard a couple different stories on the personalities. One was John was aloof and kind of distant. Okay. Very stuck his nose in his business. And other reports said he was kind of domineering. and controlling. I've heard different complaint reports about her personality. Some said she was prone to hysterics, would fly into fits of rage, she was grumpy. Others said she was just
petulant,
quiet girl. But I'm leaning more towards she probably was more towards the troublesome because where the problem started, where this situation started.
She's plotting murder after all. Because
I really get the impression that she was quite okay with the marriage at first. It wasn't until she met our player 3 who comes into the...
Right.
She meets this man, and unfortunately I can't find the name he met her under, but came out pretty quickly that his real name was Jesse Strang.
That's right, and he was referred to as Doctor because he could read and write.
Yes. Now, Jesse met Elsie at a bar. Now, here's the thing. She's a married woman, but she's at a bar. Has she been a red flag right there, folks? I'm sorry.
The more things change.
She meets Jesse, falls in love with him,
right?
Gets him a job at Cherry Hill as a handyman. So they can start having an affair. Now let's talk about Jesse for a minute. Jesse's got a bit of a past.
Well, he left his wife and children on suspicion that she had been unfaithful to him. And how he did this is he faked his own death.
Yeah.
And where is his point of origin?
He's from Fishkill, New York originally. And then I think I think it was Ohio was where he was from, where he married the wife and left him. Oh, let me back up a minute. I found his name. He was under the name of Joseph Orton when he met Elsie. He was using that alias.
Yes, okay.
So he's using alias. When he faked his death, he became Joseph Orton when he deserted his wife and 4 children. I believe it was Ohio. I read that somewhere. I could have the state wrong.
Well,
and
anyway,
he came back to New York.
It'd be a fun fact for you listeners to look up.
He came back to New York and met Elsie at a bar. And they had quite the affair. She had servants running letters out to him. He would write letters back.
Oh, yes. And these love letters would come into play again.
They couldn't be alone in the house. Like I said, there was like 17 people there. That's not including the servants. They did get together somehow. Because Jesse did admit that it wasn't just letters they were writing. Okay.
You mean they were swapping spit?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Or more than that?
Yeah. Elsie wanted to run away with Jesse. She was smitten. She wanted to run away with him.
She's 14.
Well, I think she was about 16 at this time, I think. She was a few years into the marriage.
Yes. A few years into the marriage.
Well,
this is what happened.
He said, yeah, let's do that. Sounds like a great idea, but we're going to need money. And now we go back to the husband controls all the money, including the money that she'd inherited. So now they have a problem.
The thing of it is, it's puzzling to me why this girl thinks that by getting rid of this person, her husband, who is legally her guardian as well, it would just fall to another guardian. The wealth would just fall to another guardian, wouldn't it?
Oh no, not after his death.
And what would be different about that?
I don't know the laws, but too much. But it's not like back then she had to wait till she was 18 to be considered an adult.
Right.
Remember, she was married when she was 14. It was perfectly legal. So.
But by the time she's 16, is she out of her minority and into her majority?
She'd be considered well, she's already married. She's pretty much considered an adult at that point. You just got to remember that back then women didn't have any
I'm thinking of, that's it. I'm taking it, I'm thinking of today's rules.
No, you got to think back to back then how different it was.
That's right. If she is married, even at the age of 14, she, oh my goodness sake, she is considered an adult.
Right, and if her husband passes away,
then it would.
She wouldn't have another guardian. No, she wouldn't.
I see. As it would happen today.
Yeah, well, first of all, not many places allow you to get married under the age of 16 or 18, so.
Which would make it crazy.
Yeah. But anyway, so her and Jesse, they're in love. They want to run away together. They need money. Now they need to get John out of the picture.
No, yeah.
Because they have to get him out of the picture in such a way that she can get her money back into her hands. Elsie convinces Jesse, let's poison John. Pretty common way to kill somebody back then, well, even now. Think how easy it was to go down to the apothecary and pick up what you needed. And they live on a farm, so he probably had poisons around. Pretty simple. But they decided to use arsenic, very common at that time.
It was in the wallpaper.
Yeah, Victorian era wallpaper? Yeah, it was.
So yeah, arsenic, pretty common.
They snuck the arsenic into John's drinks. The man had a constitution.
Well, I'll tell you, it took a month to get him sick, and they were exacerbated.
Yes.
They were,
Yes.
they were on the point of obstreperous. By this point, folks, were really they needed a solution, and they needed one fast. So, quick, what does she come up with?
Well, first of all, they start spreading rumors that he had ticked somebody off business-wise, and they were threatening to kill John.
Oh.
So these rumors were started by her and Jesse. Probably when they were getting ticked off that John wasn't dying from the arsenic. He was just getting bad stomach cramps.
Yeah.
You know, that someone was out to kill him. So now they're preemptively trying to cover their tracks. You know?
They keep trying to kill him like this. This guy's going to wind up rolled into a carpet.
Yep. So, before May 7th, 1827, Jesse bought a rifle. Okay, keep that in mind. Jesse bought a rifle.
In 1827, Jesse bought a rifle.
Elsie steals a bullet from her.
Jesse steals a bullet.
Elsie steals a bullet from her husband's collection, which hopefully he bought the right type of rifle.
Hopefully the gun and the bullet fit together, since there's been no coordination in the purchase of the firearm and the ammunition itself.
Exactly that point. So Elsie and John are in their room.
Right.
Elsie opens up the windows. Jesse is on a shed roof, not that far from the window. We saw a video on YouTube. I'd say
I
what
saw
was
the
like
illustration. It looked as if it was an enclosed porch that was built
more like
off
an
from the side of
but it was like 10
building,
feet away from the window. Would you
where
say
he could stand and take aim.
So
clearly in line of sight.
What we're describing here is not a awesome sniper shot. He was like 10 feet away from the window, but he was up on the roof. She pulls open the curtains, steps back so he gets a good view of John, and Jesse shoots John through the window. It doesn't kill him instantly. He stumbles out of the bedroom into the stairwell, and that's where he died.
And he suffered through it. And this is ripe, fertile ground for paranormal activity.
Yes, he's the one that supposedly haunts
Cherry
Hill. And I was reading up on some of the hauntings. It's stuff like doors opening and closing that can't be opening and closing. People have felt the cold spots. And it's just your typical kind of poltergeisty activity. And there are people that go on tours and, like I said, they'll see doors open and close for no apparent reason. And there is some active paranormal at Cherry Hill, and it's all supposed to be from John. Well, he was the only one that didn't die a natural death there, if you think about it. I mean, there are plenty of other people who died there, but he was think about the poor guy. For the last month, he's been poisoned, so he's been suffering horrendous stomach problems and digestive problems, but it's not killing him. And then he gets shot.
Is prime territory for the creation of a haunting.
It was considered assassination. Well, let me read this exact. This is from one of the newspapers in Albany. I did not find this. This was in one of our sources, so I don't have the exact newspaper. But this was from the morning after. The victim was Mr. John Whipple, who was writing in a back room on the second story of his dwelling house in Cherry Hill, a mile below the city, between 9 and 10 o'clock at night, was fired at through the sash with a pistol. The ball passed through and shattered the pane of glass, entered the body of Mr. Whipple through the blade bone of his left shoulder, cut one of the principal arteries of his heart, and lodged in the right lobe of the lungs. A gentleman was sitting in the room with Mr. Whipple, but in the confusion of the moment no purist could be made, nor was any measures taken, until the information was conveyed to the police of the city, when he was shot, rose from his seat, exclaimed, "My God, what was that?" and made for the door at the head of the stairs, descended a step or two, and then instantly expired. The wife of Mr. W. had been in the room but a moment before, and the next time she saw her husband he was a lifeless corpse. Her feelings may have been easier imagined than described, but it appears that the murderer was deliberate in the prosecution of his bloody purpose. He succeeded in coming within reach of the victim by climbing the woodshed in the rear of and adjoining the house, and at the time he fired could not have been more than 3 or 4 yards from him. He ascended the shed by carrying it 2 old boxes that were nearby, placing one on top of the other. By his tracks, he appeared to be attempting to get up and use the one box, but it was not high enough. He brought the others to his aid. He was barefoot, and his tracks the next morning were distinctly traced along the roof and shed for some distance in the house after he'd done the bloody deed. So, okay, this is the next day.
Mm-hmm.
They don't know what had happened. All they know is John was shot. And I didn't know about that witness in there, too. That was interesting. There was another witness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's interesting. They say it was a pistol.
In the original report, a pistol.
But then why was it then changed to a rifle?
I think the police got in there and investigated and found out what it was. I mean, even back then, I think you could tell the difference between a projectile fired from a pistol and a rifle.
Another interesting thing for you listeners to look over and find out if you become interested about this case of this murder, and whether or not it was a pistol or a rifle.
Going back to what Strain was doing, Jesse was doing, he shoots John, gets off the woodshed, drops the rifle somewhere,
Right.
hides it, drops it, whatever. I was not too clear on what happened to the rifle at this point. Runs to a nearby store to secure an alibi, but then he returns to Cherry Hill and goes, "Oh my God, what had happened?" When the hubbub, and assisted the doctor in trying to save John's life. But, John was already dead at that point because he died pretty much as soon as he walked out of the room.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He tried to secure an alibi. The police were pretty quick to figure out Jesse's story and didn't really match up. And they also figured out, he couldn't run to that store and back in the time it took between shooting and when he came back. So
a little early police work.
Right, and I think the first thing is they figured out, one, it was from a rifle, not a pistol.
Mm-hmm.
2, and then also with the whole rifle thing too, people saw Jesse buying the rifle earlier. So, you're starting to make 2 and 2 here. 2 and 2 equals 4. The cops detain him, and Jesse confesses.
Yeah, just right off the bat.
Right off the bat, he confesses.
Doesn't even try to, hustle him at all. It just spills the beans right away.
He also blamed Elsie for the whole conception of the plan. Elsie then was also arrested, but they were able to communicate in jail, and Elsie reminded him if he had not confessed, they would have gotten off scot-free and been living in Canada.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? This is where I get a little ticked off.
Right.
We're going to get to the trial here. Okay. So Jesse's pretty much he's confessed, he pulled the trigger, but it was all Elsie's idea. Of course, he's, the truth about him faking his death and abandoning his family has come out at this point too, so he really doesn't look too promising.
Mm-hmm.
And now you gotta remember Elsie, she was rich. She had a very big inheritance. She was married into a famous family.
Mm-hmm.
Related to another one, So she was an upper crust.
Yeah.
Yes, they did arrest her. They did try her.
We should call this segment Fumatorium.
Elsie plays the victim card here.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, Jesse came in and swept me off my feet, and he convinced me that we should leave together, and blah, blah, blah. I didn't know what I was doing, that type of stuff.
Oh, back of hand, brow. Oh my God. Oh.
I'm the victim here. And I think that's where some of the stories about John being domineering and all that came out as well at that point.
And you have to understand, again, just as the control of money was in the husband's hands, all that same kind of society would play deference to somebody like
Elsie.
Well,
remember, she's more from an upper crust. She's from a good family.
Exactly.
She's got money.
Yeah.
She's related to one of the prosecutors that's in the trial. I mean,
more things change.
Okay, so in the public eye, this poor girl who's no widow, she's played up to be the true victim here. Jesse, well, look at this scumbag. He already faked his death once to get out of the responsibility of a marriage.
Exactly, they dredged up his past. He was called, the judge called him a serpent and a fiend. This is prior to the trial. This is, hung in the forum, in the public forum already.
Yeah. They actually have to move the trial into Albany proper.
Just to take care of...
Because of all the onlookers.
Oh, the spectators.
All the spectators coming in for the trial. This is big news at the time, okay? This is horrendous news.
Yeah. In broadcast law, there was two things. Change of veneer and change of venue.
Yeah.
Change of veneer is usually something that happens with the jury when you have to, change that up or something like that. But a change of venue is usually demanded for a fair trial.
Right.
But they had a change of venue just to accommodate the spectators. Because the vendors couldn't, I don't know, fit enough snack bars into the lobby, I guess.
So this is just crazy.
Courthouse. So,
like you said, the public opinion's already pretty much got him.
Absolutely.
People are coming out of the woodwork to see this trial. It's crazy. Well, guess what? Elsie is found not guilty.
Naturally.
She's let go. Of course, Jesse is found guilty. And they take him down to the gallows in Albany. 40,000 people show up to watch him be hung.
And what a grisly hanging they were in for.
To give this perspective, guys, we lived in Rome, New York. Population 36,000 people. There were more people at this public execution than live in the city of Rome.
Mincing room only.
Exactly. Okay. This, fortunately, was the last execution in Albany. Jesse was hung for years. Even now, people say if you know where the spot is, you see Jesse. Well,
here's another ripe opportunity for paranormal activity. When Jesse was hung, the rope didn't break his neck.
That's right.
And he hung there for an hour before he finally suffocated.
Oh, yeah, it's just...
So, yeah. Here we have one man betrayed by his wife and murdered, suffered through the poisoning and the shooting, and his spirit is tethered to the house.
Right.
And another man who suffered on the gallows through suffocation.
We forgot to mention about the other thing that
being, saddled with the entire affair.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they tried covering the tracks with two things. We mentioned before the businessmen that were out to get John, but they also started the rumors that they had seen prowlers the night. So they tried to cover their tracks. Didn't work.
Of course. And then, this drew the attention of the coroner. who Jesse had frequent contact with for some reason after the murder, and this became suspicious, to the coroner, and so the police looked into it further. And
it wasn't that she wasn't just found not guilty; she was totally acquitted.
Yeah,
so
that's the thing. But fate caught up to her. She died 5 years later.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Yes. Now, like I said, there's the haunting in Cher Hill, and there's the haunting where Jesse was hung. Mm-hmm. You can't find the exact location anymore because major public works, I guess, is there now. It's in the Empire Plaza. Near the Corning Tower is the approximate location of where the gallows were. And there are reports. I've read reports from workmen that were building the Empire Plaza that they would see this man kind of hanging around that area, and he would disappear when they approached him. People to this day swear they see some gentleman kind of wandering that area.
The area has been reworked and restructured so many times since the 1830s.
Yeah.
It's almost unrecognizable. And so
but people still see
to pinpoint where the gallows were.
But people still see him in the general area.
Without a plan.
Yeah, well, you'd have to compare maps and that to see, but people still see him in the general area. They still see Jesse there.
Wow.
And I guess we could talk about the way I feel about this. I got a LCU, boy, what a manipulative.
Keep it G.
I don't think Jesse made up the fact it was all her idea.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know if she was at the point where she was really truly in love with Jesse, or she thought of maybe she did want the money in her control again and saw him as a way out of the marriage. I mean, I'm of two minds on that.
Obvious observation.
I'm of two minds on that one because maybe she was actually in love or infatuated with Jesse, at least at the beginning.
Yeah.
And then saw the opportunity. Or...
Well, she did have a month to think about it while she tried poisoning her husband.
Exactly. But then there's also the possibility that she was out in these bars looking for a schmuck.
I think that is a real tell on her motivations. Is why would she stop going to bars then after meeting Jesse?
Right.
Other than she struck gold.
Yeah.
And boy, oh boy, literally.
So I do really think she was the mastermind behind it. I'm not sure of her motivations. Could have been just financial. Could have been maybe she didn't like being married to a guy who was 9 years older than her. In which I say, that's too bad because that's not that big of an age difference. Even back then it wasn't that big of an age difference. And my God, she was still living a wealthy lifestyle. It wasn't like she'd been cut off completely.
No.
And then she then she meets Jesse, who's already got kind of a, he's got a past. I mean, we got to admit, he did have a past. But that's... And
especially if he divulged that past to her.
Yeah.
Then she would have leverage against him. If it was successful, if they did get away with the murder.
Then she could just
just turn around and inform her family. I mean, his family about him and get rid of him that way.
Exactly. That's a good idea. I mean, in my opinion, her being acquitted was the real miscarriage of justice here.
You see, the society that kept her from her money is the same society that protected her.
Yeah, isn't that ironic?
Ain't that sick?
Yeah. But here's the thing. Yeah, they acquitted her.
Yeah.
Was it because she was a woman? Was it because she was crying victim?
I think because it was the gentlemanly thing to do back then, Murray. Women didn't go to the gallows. No, we don't. That kind of thing.
Unless they were poor, because I can think of like 3 other women about that time period who were executed. Yeah.
Well, there were exceptions, yes.
Yeah.
In extreme cases. But they had to be extreme cases. Yeah. But men generally went to the gallows for anything.
True. And then on top of, insult to injury, not only is he found guilty, it's a major event. It's a major public event.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it's...
Yeah, and if they hung Elsie, well, they could have doubled the crowd, couldn't they?
But, oh...
Boy.
Oh!
Yes, thank you for listening to the Fumatorium segment of our
I just happened to glance at our notes.
podcast.
Guess where she died?
Where?
Onondaga.
Oh my God, no.
She died in Onondaga, New York.
In 1832.
Yep. So,
Yep, 5 years after Jessie was hung.
so this is the wonderful story of the murder at Cherry Hill.
Cherry Hill. Go check it out, folks.
Yes, they are restoring that place.
Yes, they, as a matter of fact, they are now ready for tours.
Yes.
For the murder tours.
Well, those just happened last month in October.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
They were not. They were restoring it between October 16th to like the 26th, something like that.
Yeah.
Which was just a couple of weeks, so that's a quick restoration.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but.
And they did have one child. We kind of forget about Elsie. Did have one child with John, Abraham Whipple. I don't know anything else about him. I do know that they had a child. So.
Okay. Well, my God, the only silver lining in this whole crappy deal is the child here.
Yeah.
I should find out. Okay, listeners, go find out what happened. What happened to that kid? What was his name again? John? John Whipple?
John was the father. Abraham was the son.
Abraham was the son. Okay. Yeah. Abraham Whipple, folks.
Now, if you're interested, the Cornell University Library does have the confession of Jessie Strang, executed in Albany on Friday, August 24th, 1827, for the murder of John Whipple, as made to Reverend Mr. Lacey, rector of St. Peter's Church. And it's the entire confession. What's interesting about this confession, this is like something you would have picked up, like a little pamphlet you had picked up, or a little, if you're in England, a Penny Dreadful at the time.
You mean like a dime novel?
Like a dime novel. This is not a legal document. Bible? This is not a legal document we have here. This is something you could have bought and read for your entertainment. So I find that interesting as well, that this is his confession, but this is something you could have had a copy of in your home. I don't think it's any different than what I'm doing right now. I mean,
it's kind of macabre.
Yeah, but I'm doing the same thing. I'm just looking at a digitized version of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So I don't think that's any different today. I mean, we watch a lot of true crime and videos, and there's a couple that they get videos of police interrogations and that, and they will show them. So the information is out there. I mean, okay, think back when we did Hatch. All that information's on the Oneida County website. I think the difference is looking at this and realizing somebody made money off of this confession.
Oh yes, they did.
You know. I guess that's no different than the people who bought Gacy's paintings. You know. Granted, the money didn't go back to Jessie at this point because Jessie was dead. But yeah, so if you want to read it, you can go online, look at the Cornell Library, and then it's his full confession. It's a few pages.
Well, Jessie could read and write. And back in the 1820s, that gave him the nickname, the Doctor.
But there's kind of, as for planning the death of your husband, boy, she really... I mean, starting the stories, that was kind of brilliant. Okay, yeah, starting the rumors, good idea. But boy, she didn't really cover her tracks very well.
No.
I mean, the arsenic thing, a lot of people are like, oh, how come they couldn't trace her with the arsenic? Because arsenic was very common at that time, you'd use it in a lot of things around the house. So that really pointed you as a murderer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, maybe you were trying to get rid of a particularly virulent case of rats.
Exactly.
Around your house.
No. And then him shooting John, you know what?
Yeah.
He was so close. I mean, there is a video online from the people that run the museum, and they show out the window where John was. Jessie was stationed with the rifle. John could have easily gone to that window and seen him. That wasn't too bright. I'm sorry, that wasn't too bright. He should have had a different place to fire upon him, because that could have been the end of it right there. there's a lot of things in this I read back and go, they weren't the most brilliant plotters. Right?
They, a couple of a real parry. Not exactly the sharpest slices of cheese on the tray.
Yeah. So,
as far as being able to pull off a murder convincingly.
So that's the Cherry Hill, and like I said, my opinion is Elsie should have hanged too. Yeah, I'm sorry, but she
like I said, they could have doubled their crowd.
Oh gosh, yeah. It could have been the last woman hung in Albany, or maybe the first woman hung in Albany.
Really, yeah.
But yeah, it's a pretty scandalous story. It would make a wonderful Lifetime movie.
Yeah.
You know.
Or one of those trashy novels.
Or if Americans were more into period pieces, this would be wonderful.
Yeah.
But there we go. There's the ghost. There's the murder Cherry Hill that spawned 2 hauntings. So I highly recommend.
2 for 1.
The Empire Plaza. There's so much to see around there. You know, you could go visit the Egg, and then you could go over to the the History Museum there, or the New York State Museum there. It's all free. Well, the Egg depends on the performances. I shouldn't say the Egg's free, but you can at least
depends on it.
Depends who's playing inside the Egg that night.
We hope anyone listening to our podcast, we hope we've given you plenty of food for thought.
Maybe we should explain what the Egg is.
Okay, well, I'll let you do that.
Okay. The Empire Plaza is near the New York State Capitol. It's this huge, beautiful plaza that encompasses quite a bunch of the city down there. And they have a lot of buildings. Of course, they got the Capitol building. I mentioned the New York State Museum, the Corning Towers there, where Jesse kind of hangs around now.
Oh, yeah.
And then they have this building. Yes, it's an egg. It's a concrete egg. It's what it looks like. But that's a performance hall. So you hear somebody from New York talk about the Egg, that's what they're talking about.
Why?
Well, in March we might be going to see somebody at the Egg. Then we can give you what it looks like on the inside.
And then maybe I can answer my own question as to why.
So there's, you could go down, try to find Jesse, and go see all the free stuff that's there. Take a tour of the Capitol, which is haunted by the way, too, as well. And then head over to Cherry Hill and see if you can, figure out, see both John and Jesse.
Yeah.
I guess we had to figure out where Onondaga, Elsie, died, and see if she's haunting that spot.
We'll do it for you, sweetie. You seem to be more upset about it than I.
It just gets me. I mean, I know it's a different time period.
And always look for our new feature during this podcast, the fumatorium.
But it still gets me. Okay, I know in modern times she probably would be found just as guilty. But,
yeah, right, exactly.
All right, that's enough.
Thank you for listening to our ghastly podcast.
Yes. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Unearthly Upstate. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Patreon, and on our webpage. We are also on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Spreaker, Stitcher, Podbean, Google Podcasts, and CastBox. Please like, share, and review on your favorite platform. Unearthly Upstate is an Animator Liar production. The show is produced by Maria Manette, with purring provided by Honey and Lloyd. Research and writing by Maria Manette. Music is by Kevin MacLeod, licensed under Creative Commons Attribution 3.0 license. Unless otherwise stated in the episode, the places mentioned in the broadcast are not paid or contact us for any type of promotion. Please check out our webpage for credit and sources for the episode. Thank you.